I grew up in Sydney, as almost everybody who lives in Australia does. And from the time I started school, I was on transit. So my elementary school, I was on a bus, then a ferry, then a bus. And that continued through until I started going to the school that was actually just next door to me. So that was just a walk. But transit has been absolutely key to everything that I did in Sydney. I didn't learn to drive until I was 26, I think. It was just not necessary. And, you know, I absolutely love transit. I'm one of those people, unfortunately, that does read a book when I'm on my way to Portland. And I use the bus to Portland all the time just to go to meetings. It's a wonderful way to travel around the Gorge. The reason I'm here is because one of my jobs is to plan for disasters and then, of course, to respond to disasters. And one of the interesting things that I have on my plate is how do I evacuate people who don't have personal vehicles because they've taken the bus or they've taken transit? How do I get a hold of people who are out on trails? We had a wonderful experience of trying to evacuate trails during the Eagle Creek fire. And we also have a large population of people in the Gorge that don't have reliable transport, or they need emergency transport because of the situation they're in. An example of that, where local transit helped us out, was the Milepost 87 fire last year, where we were preparing to evacuate the VA facility that's just to the east of the Dalles. And we had buses lined up. We actually avoided evacuating that location by about 5 minutes. The fire took a nice turn, so that was excellent for us. But transit was there. We had the same thing for a fire just next to Norcor, again in the Dalles, where we had transit on site ready to evacuate. Another example is during the winter storm last year. Amy very kindly provided a bus which provided transit from Cascade Locks, where they had no power, up to Hood River, where we had the warming shelter set up. Transit is absolutely key to what I do. It's actually emergency support function number 1, so you can see how important it is. One of the tricky things, though, about being in the Gorge is that the Gorge, the general population in the Gorge, is aggressively self-sufficient. We have a population, and when we ask people to evacuate, a lot of people don't evacuate, or if they do, they have the resources to be able to look after themselves. So typically in emergency management, if you ask 100 people to evacuate, you'll get 10 people showing up in a shelter. In the Gorge, if we ask 100 people to evacuate, we'll have 1 person showing up in a shelter. And so one of the problems that I have as an emergency manager is I ask for a lot of help, and then we don't usually need a lot of help. So I ask for transit to help me move people, and then people don't use it, which is terrifically difficult for me because I'm asking for things that in retrospect we didn't actually need. I ask people to come and exercise with me for big disasters, and then we go years and I don't ask. The problem is that at some point in the future, we'll need it. And so I keep on having to remind people that we are preparing for big disasters. And I'm so grateful, so grateful that people keep showing up, that people keep on showing up to exercise, that they keep on providing services when I ask for them. And the coordination piece that Kathy talked about earlier is absolutely key to that. And we are hoping that we can provide services to transit during those disasters so that emergency management can kind of give back a little bit. We are at the moment, we're doing our fuels plan, which is how we do emergency fuels distribution in the Gorge between Hood River County, Wasco County, Sherman County and Gillum County. And transit is up there on the same tier as emergency services because having fueled transit so people can move about is as important as any emergency service. And we're hoping to work with the coordination group of the transit to put in more planning for the expected successes of having more and more people coming to the Gorge and not having private transport. And I'm here a good chunk of the day if anybody wants to chat about any of that. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Charles.